Hi, welcome back to the PAFA wire wrapping channel. Today I'm going to try to do something similar to this. This is a blue goldstone star-shaped stone, and I got a couple of these at a local rock shop. I'm going to try to show you how to do this. This is made with craft wire, and I use the ParaWire brand, which I really like, but I can use sterling silver a lot, but it's gotten so expensive, as I'm sure you all know. Today we're going to need flat nose pliers. I use these lovely Xuron thin needle nose, bent nose. I love them. Flush cutters, wire straighteners, and we might need bail maker or something like that at the end. We're going to use 3 20 gauge 10-inch long ParaWire, or whatever kind of wire you want, but I'd prefer 20 gauge for this particular piece, which is about 1.25 inches in diameter. If it's smaller, you may want to go with a smaller wire, like a 22. And I'm also going to be using, for wraps, the 26 gauge round wire. You can use half round, or 28 gauge, or whatever your heart desires, whatever makes you feel good. I'm just going to straighten this up a bit. I've already cut these 3 wires. So I started by tracing this stone, and you might want to use some of this Loctite putty on here. I'm going to take it off now. Use that to keep it from moving about while you're trying to trace it. I'm terrible at tracing, as you can see, but you don't need it to be exact. I'm going to use maybe 6 to 8 wraps per side, and I'm going to ask you to do 5 of these. And I don't mean 5 wraps, I mean 5 times the 6 or 8 wraps. So right there, I've got 6. Get 1 more on this side, if I can. And then press it down, push them together. So that should be 7. And the craft wire can be a little bit harder to get it nice and tight, so be sure you pull it tight when you're doing craft wire. The half round is great because it just holds better, but right now when I'm making videos, I'm not going to use expensive wire for the moment. So I'm going to cut this in the back where the other one is cut, which is what you want to do. You want to have the bit pieces on the same side, one on the left, one on the right. Squish them all together. There's 1 set of 8. Make sure your wires are lined up. If you're using half round and you press these down, they might get really tight and you won't be able to move them, but it's good to keep them a little bit movable because we're going to have to adjust where they go. I'm going to do 4 more of these and I'll be back. Okay, I have done all 5. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, it's hard to see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what we'll do now is we'll go back to where we traced the stone. I've got the middle one, the middle set of wraps. I'm going to put it right at 5 inches, and we'll just tighten that up and hopefully press it down enough that it won't move too much, but mine are a bit loose, I have to say. You want them loose enough to move, but not loose enough to move on their own. Put the third one right there at the center. And then you're going to take your flat nose pliers, making sure that your ends are on the inside. These are all on this side. And you should have cut all your ends so they're all on one side. Hopefully it's centered. And you can always put the stone back just to check. Let's make sure they're squished together. And like I said, make sure they're a little bit movable because we're going to have to adjust where they go. But we're going to go right around where the center is. And then we're going to take your flat nose, bend down so that you create a little bend right there. They may move a little bit, but once you get this whole thing done, they should be pretty set. And then we want to try, and you could tape this down too if you want, but it might be a little difficult. Just want to kind of bend with hold your finger there and bend it up to the next point. You could use pliers, but I just want to gently do that. And what I would do is just kind of holding on to where it is, keeping it centered there. Just kind of push it. You may have to get a little help to push it over to that curve. And then you're going to pull this back. And right around where the center of that is, you'll do the same thing. Okay, so it should, with any luck, look something like that. But you might want to tighten that up a little bit more. You can put your stone in and see if you've made it too tight, because you want the stone basically, and you can use your stone too to help you. So in this case, I may have made that too long. Oops, I got tape stuck to my finger. So that was where I had the middle bend. Make sure your middle bend hasn't come out. See if you can't, if it's too loose, pull it tightly up against the stone. Put the wraps right there in the center. So it should look kind of like that. Then you can hold on to the stone at this point and bend it. Bend the 3 wires. The problem is, of course, they're going to want to all go their own direction. You could use tape for this if you want, but just try to hold that. Then slide those other wraps right to the center, if you can see what I'm doing, but bend that in. So then you have that like that. And we're going to repeat that process, but first just straighten these wires out because they're getting all wonky and bendy in ways they shouldn't. You might want to use tape, I think, at this point. It's very helpful. So just take your stone, assuming your wires aren't too out of shape here, tape it right where you started. And if you have to push that in a bit, the key is to get this all nice and tight and hopefully level. This is at the top now. So what we're going to do here, leave a little bit of space at the top above the point because you want to be able to put your bail through. So just leave about that much space, if you can see. Just bend it back a little bit. Okay, now we're going to take the tape off just a little bit and we're going to pull one of these away and the other one's going to be sort of there. We're going to bend this over. Okay, so I'm going to tape that back down so it stays, but move it out of the way. We're going to bend this down, move these right to where they would be centered. Take our flat nose again, making sure that you keep the wire that's over the edge, over the edge basically. So we're going to move that back and right around the center, we're going to bend it. And then that should be sitting right there. Press it down, press it again over the next edge. And we're going to move these guys down. And at that edge, with any luck, we'll do the same thing. But this is harder because these wires are going to be in the way now. But so you want to sort of bend that so it's straightened. And then you're going to try to bend right where it's centered. Bend it down. Okay, and then you just have to push it up against the edge here. And then have that bend, oops, all 3 bends, not just 2, please. All 3 bends just a little bit up from the top. We're going to want them to be as straight as possible. That's how it should hopefully look something like that. And we can adjust all this after the fact. Let's first making sure that everything's going to fit when we tie these 2 sets of wires together. We want to make sure this is going to stay right like that. We're going to get our 26 gauge wire again. Everybody should be tightened up a little bit. And this, now you can see this wire. See how this wire got all crazy? Very gently, you want to try to push that back if it gets out of whack. Keep your bend, but make it look straight as possible. And these also did that, okay? So let's try this one more time before we tie everything up. And don't worry if these are a little bit loose, because they will be, but they won't be after the fact. So that should, whoops, this one went out too. Problem with this is just trying to keep all of the wires from going their own way. It's not easy. And then press them down. And you want to get this lined up so it's nice and even where you're going to start your wraps. It may not look as pretty as when someone else does it. Make sure these guys are not overlapping each other because that will happen sometimes. Okay, just make sure, yeah. So I just want to make these bends a little more pronounced so I know exactly where I'm going to tie. Then you got to bend straight. Line them up so that they look nice and neat. Now, sometimes this parawire can be a little bit too malleable is what I'm thinking. Okay, so we want to leave enough here to make 4 wraps. Try to make these tight, because you don't want everything getting out of shape here. Wherever your last wrap goes, if you want this to be the front, pull it tight. Now, this could scratch you if you're not careful, so the thing to do is cut that right off there. Then take your pliers and just try to make sure and pull on this one. Now, let's just see. Okay, so you can, if you want, just to be sure everything's going to stay put, wrap some tape around your stone and keep it on the wires, or keep the wires on the stone is what I mean to say, while you do this, because that'll keep everything kind of from going all crazy. All right, so what I did, and you don't have to do the same thing, but what I did before, and I'll do again, is I take the first two wires, assuming my eyes can find them, my 60-something-year-old eyes, and then go to the back. And you may have to do this to just be sure which wires are which. Okay, I think I have the right wires. So these are the back wires, these are the front wires, these are the middle wires. That's going to be the bail. And you can do this differently. You can make 4 wires into the bail. You can do a weave. I'm just going to do a simple wrap for you guys today. All it is do this until you get about an inch, and just making sure that you're tight, that you're lined up, that this thing that's beginning to happen where this wire wants to cross over there, you occasionally need to go back and straighten it out and push your things down and make sure you don't see loose wires sticking up. You want this to be nice and uniform. I'm going to finish this off camera because it's boring, and I will be back. Okay, so I have done about, not quite an inch, it might even be too long. The size of your bail should be in proportion to your stone. You don't want a ginormously large bail for a small stone, but I think this is about right. The front is where we pulled the wire through, at least on mine. And so I put the end of this wire right here in the back. You can see it with my really dry thumb. And it's April. Do you know that we had below freezing temperatures last night, and it's going to be May in a few days? I'm in Maryland, which April can be crazy, but now they're talking about Maryland might get some accumulating snow in May, which is kind of crazy, but I hope they mean like Deep Creek Lake or something, which is farther north. Okay, so I'm going to cut off a little bit of this just to make them even. I've bent it forward. Now you can use bail making pliers for this, or you can just do it yourself. And here's the reason I wanted to leave that little gap, because I want to go through under here. So we're going to look something like that. And then I'm going to get these guys out of the way. I may have to straighten them again before I use them. And then just go all the way back, and you've probably done this or seen me do this a million times, where you basically just go to the back, cut it off, and then, actually I'm going to use these guys, and then just very gently push it under to tie it in. And now we're going to do the other side. And making sure, I mean, I should have said that before, but whenever you do this, make sure that your 2 wires are not crisscrossed. These are straight, because you don't want, they're not straight, but they're not crisscrossed. You don't want the crisscross going underneath there. You want it nice and even. I don't know how much it would be noticed, but I would notice it. Okay, and then you're going to cut right about, you don't want it sticking all the way through. You just want it to be able to grab underneath. So you can see, press it down. And these wires, when I did that, got a little bit bent. We want to press these down the best we can. All right, now we're done with that, and we can start focusing on getting these guys where they need to be, which might take a little bit of pressing and bending. You basically want your wraps to be, you know, it's fairly symmetrical. I don't know why I can't get that right. Things that are bugging me. Okay, I'm going to set this down and try it this way. All right, that's better. So I know that's the front, and that's actually sticking out a little bit if you can see it, but it will be hidden by the little loopy things. To get started, I would go to the back, make sure that everything is pressed down as much as you want it to be pressed down before you do this. So we have 3 wires, and we're gonna hold this like this so that you don't end up pulling everything out. I'm gonna try to separate these 3 wires with a fingernail, and I'm going to bring, actually I'm going to use the flatter needle nose and get that right in there. And then what you're going to do is just bring it back like that. We'll do that again on the other side. We're going to do this all the way around. We'll take the tape off as we go, making sure that these are centered too. So you gotta kind of press it back so it doesn't go, you don't want the whole thing coming, just the 1 wire. Okay, just kind of press that back, and then you can press it down a bit once you've got it done. I think I'm going to go ahead and lock in the bottom. See that little gap? I want to fix that. So press that down with the side of my pliers, and then this wire. So take your fingernail, do the same thing on the front. Try to be symmetrical if you can with each side. If possible. It's not that easy, as you can see. One thing you can do is kind of bring them in like that. If they don't look symmetrical, grab one side to try to make it even. This one's a little bit lower. And you could drive yourself crazy all day trying to get it just right. But we may change how that looks. Okay, so now I think we can take the tape off because we've got the bottom end secured. I'm going to go back to the back, do the back first. Don't ask me why, I just want to. Bend it over, press it down. Let's move these out of the way. Over, and it's always important to hold on to everything else when you do this so that nothing gets pulled out of whack. So this is the back. Now we're going to do the front. And before I do that, and actually I want to get this looking better too. This is okay, but a little bit loose, but I'm going to take that one that's in the middle and move it back to right over the edge there. And then I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to gently pull that over the edge, and then do the same thing on the other side. Sometimes it's better to flip it upside down. It makes it a little bit easier. And then try to make it look the same on both sides, which doesn't always work, but I think partly because these are lower than the other ones, so I couldn't pull it out as much. So now I can kind of pull it out a little bit more. And you can take your pliers and do that. That's the front. Before I do any swirly stuff, I'm just going to go around and see what I can kind of flatten down because I don't want everything sticking out. See if the wires are bent at all, which these are. If they're bent, then unbend them and then flatten it down again. And these look a little bit uneven. Okay, so we've got that all looking pretty good. This is a little bit higher up than I want it. All right, now you could just do almost nothing if you like this look and just leave it the way it is. I'm going to just add some little swirly embellishments, and you could add beads. I think I'm just going to do the swirls again. Let's look at what we did before. I didn't make everything symmetrical. I think I started with the farthest back, or maybe not, I don't know. Just do what feels good. I'm going to just do a curl and maybe take these little guys, and then I'm going to cut it. And I do it this way because that'll leave a little edge. Make sure you don't cut any other wires when you cut this. That leaves like a little sharper edge that you can press down. And it just gives it a little bit more pizzazz than a flat edge would. And then you just grab it, holding on to the rest of the curl if you can. And just kind of press it down a little bit more. Then you can take the other side and do something with that. I actually think I'm going to do this backwards. And I want to do a big, you want to start with a big one if you want to get that little curl on the inside, because if it's not big enough, you won't have that ability. So let's see what this looks like. And that's, I'll press it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to grab that while holding on to the rest of it. Try to get that in to a tight little curl there. But hold it with the thumb so it doesn't. And then so it doesn't move is what I was trying to say. I just trailed off, which I frequently do. And you can leave that like that if you want. And I'm actually going to have to tie these down a bit if they're loose. So I'll take this one. So at this point, you're really just doing what makes you feel good. It's a star. I'm trying to make it look sort of like, oh, there's some crazy stuff out there in the universe, you know? And I'm going to do another swirl here, I guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And that one's going to be bigger because I'm going to do another thing like that. So this is where you get your artistic side going, because you can do the basics to get it secured, like what I just went through with you. Okay. And then just bend it up. See how that looks? That's good. And then I'm going to bend it in. It's got some swirlies going on there. And then for the last one, I think I'm going to come around here. This is just different from the other one. So it takes a minute when you're thinking about being creative, doing something creative, to try to figure it out, which is why I'll just sit here like an idiot and not make any sounds, which is probably better than me making sounds, but okay, I guess I'll do that. And then I'm gonna bring it back somehow. I did that other one, I showed it to my husband last night, and usually if I do something fancy, he'll be like, oh, that's pretty, but this one he just looked at and he said, oh, that's crazy. Thank you, hubby. Okay. And please, I'd love to hear your comments, as long as you keep them kind, on your opinion of this design, or how I wrap the star. You can certainly find better ways or other ways to do this yourself. I hope that you do, and I hope you enjoy the process, because it is fun. It's not as fun sometimes on camera because you feel like you don't know what you're doing and everybody might be watching. So, but I do hope you're watching. I do, even though you may not like it. If that makes any sense. I hope you like it and you're watching. And I'm muttering because I'm just trying to get this done. And there's really nothing here to teach you other than making swirls. You need to do what you like, that you think is good, and make it look like your own. Because tutorials are great for teaching you how to do things, but ultimately, we all want to do our own thing. Now, this is not done because I don't like this. It's kind of contrasting with the swirliness, so I'm going to make these look a little bit more crazy. So I will see what I can do here. I'm going to just make a bend here, and a bend here, maybe. So, and then it is a little crazier, but I'm going to have to, oops, I'm going to have to do that. So it doesn't look quite as straight, and do the same kind of thing here. And they're not going to be symmetrical. They're just going to be weird and wacky. And then if things come loose after that, just press it back in. Oops, I just did a bad thing. I'm going to take my, because I heard it and I see it. I just scratched that little bit of wire up. So do what you can to get scratches out. This is craft wire, so it's not quite as nice. I'll have to use something like a file, which I don't have handy, but I will fix it up before the final photo. So something like that. And this one. The trouble with doing anything with wire is that you might scratch it up if you're not careful. So be careful. Don't be like me. I'm doing it again on this side. At least before I fixed it, I've got another one to fix at the same time, so I'll save time. Well, it's not perfect, but nothing in life ever is. Have fun. Do it the way you want to do it, and don't let anybody tell you that you should do it differently, unless it's something you want to do differently, because we all have to follow our own path in life and have to, you know, like Sinatra said, do it your own way. Do it his way. No, don't do it his way, but you know. Okay. I'm about done muttering. So here we go. I think that's about finished. And again, I'll get the scratches out before the final thing. Let me move all this out of the way so it doesn't look so bad. There we go. Okay. All right. That's all right. So I hope you like it. This was the first one. As you can see, they're both similar but different. So these you can get probably online somewhere, but like I said, if you have a local rock shop, it's great to go there and try and find some cool stuff. Anyway, I hope that you liked it. Please, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video if you liked it. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I do have a presence there, although it's a pretty sad one. I also have a website if you wanted to buy anything. It's purpleairfrogarts.com. I'm going to stop muttering now. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Okay, I thought that I was done, but I think you remember that I scratched it up here. I tried to file it out, but the problem with plated wire is the plating scratches off very easily. It ended up looking like copper underneath. I'm going to attach this actually too, because these little loopy things are a bit loose. The best option, but there may not be enough room. Let me see if I can't move that loop a little bit. Yeah, okay. And then just do it couple of times, that'll be done. Just something like that, because if you have loops like what I have and they're floating about, they can catch on something and completely ruin the piece while somebody's wearing it, and you don't want that. So just a couple of little attachments will secure your loops to your stone or somewhere else on the frame, and that's really all you need. And just make enough to tuck it underneath, hopefully, and then you cut it off as close as possible up here. And if it doesn't cut, then just do that, and that should make it break. There you go. And if you see anything sticking out there, just tuck that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'll show you the picture of that. But that's all I wanted to tell you, because this, in addition to making it more secure, thankfully it will cover up that little mistake I made. And the other one I did use a file on. It's not perfect, but it is improved. I appreciate your patience and tolerance for me and my continual screw-ups. All right, take it easy. Talk to you later.